Before we begin, I invite you to gently close your ears and focus on what remains when all external sounds fade away. It's like sitting in a quiet room, and after a while, you notice a subtle ringing or hum beneath the silence. If you listen closely, you'll start to experience this soft, constant presence, something that feels like the very fabric of reality itself. In quantum physics, it's said that everything is connected at the most fundamental level, and that everything we see is just a manifestation of deeper, unseen energy. What you are hearing, or rather feeling, is that same energy, that same field of potential. This subtle ringing is what we call the sound of silence. It's not just an abstract concept or some external force. It's the very essence of you. Everything we discuss in this session, and the ones to come, will be about this sound of silence. It is not something separate or different from you. It is you. This exploration is about realizing that the sound of silence is your own inner being, your most fundamental nature, the stillness from which all life arises. You are that, the very presence behind everything. If I, as an individual experiencing this world, cease to exist, what is the significance of the world? The universe could continue existing, but without life to perceive it, what value does it hold? Life and the universe are intertwined, not separate entities. Inside me there is a force, a life that perceives the world, and that life is not separate from the universe. It's the same principle as the idea of two sides of the same coin. They may appear distinct, but they are part of one whole. It's impossible to separate them because the existence of one implies the existence of the other. Similarly, human nature cannot be compartmentalized into good or bad, as each person acts according to their natural tendencies. Every action, good or bad, stems from an individual's intrinsic nature. If I recognize this, I can start understanding how I behave throughout the day. Am I acting according to my nature, or am I going against it? In the same way, thought patterns exist on two levels. On one level, my body operates according to its inherent nature, but my mind functions differently. I must ask why negative thought patterns emerge in the first place. How is it that someone could harm another without feeling any remorse? How does such a mindset develop? When a child is born, they are a blank slate. A newborn has no language, no concept of good or bad, so where do thoughts originate? As humans grow, they begin to differentiate between what is good and bad. A lion killing another animal isn't labeled as good or bad. It's part of nature. But when a person commits an act of violence, society judges it as wrong. Where does this distinction come from? Is the concept of right and wrong an inherent part of us, or is it a result of external influences? The truth is, these thought patterns develop over time through experience, environment, and knowledge. When someone is raised in a particular setting, like a poor neighborhood or a wealthy one, their thinking is shaped by that environment. For instance, if a child is born in poverty and another in wealth, their thoughts will be shaped by the resources, education, and social influences they receive. This difference in upbringing molds how they perceive the world. A child raised in a wealthy, educated environment might develop a completely different worldview than one who grows up in hardship. Society plays a significant role in shaping individuals' minds. Therefore, if I want to find fault with something, I could blame society, but ultimately society is a reflection of me. Whatever I contribute to society affects everyone, including the youngest members. That's why I care deeply about children, because they are the ones who will carry the burden of the society I help create. I do not focus on the generations that have already lived their lives. The current generation is frustrated and exhausted, and that negativity will be passed on to future children. We must not create a future filled with tired, lifeless individuals. Children need to be full of life, not weighed down by the frustrations of previous generations. It's our responsibility to ensure that they live vibrant, fulfilling lives, free from the negativity that we as adults might carry. But instead of taking responsibility, people tend to blame others. They refuse to look inward and address the negativity within themselves. How often do I stop to consider my own wrongdoings? If I examine my mind, I will likely find thoughts I'm not proud of, thoughts that, if I saw them reflected back at me, would make me feel ashamed. And yet, these thoughts are part of me. Everyone carries within them thoughts and behaviors they are reluctant to confront. People tend to follow their religious or societal beliefs without questioning them, thinking that adherence to these beliefs will grant them some sort of divine reward. But true understanding comes when I stop pointing fingers at others and start examining myself. Once I turn my attention inward and begin to confront my own flaws, I embark on a journey of spiritual growth. I start experiencing a sense of unity and peace. This feeling of oneness is what people refer to as love, a deep connection with everything and everyone around me. Love isn't about desire or self-interest. It's not about what I can gain from someone else. It's about recognizing that we are all connected, that the same life force flows through every living being. When I look at my hand, it feels like an extension of me, because I know it is part of my body. Similarly, when I truly understand love, I realize that I am connected to others in the same way. We are not separate. When I see myself in others, conflict disappears. There is no reason for stress or tension when I see that the other person is no different from me. The same goes for personal relationships. If my partner is upset about something, I can look into their eyes and see myself in them. I can remember a time when my own mood wasn't good. If I am capable of that understanding, all the trivial arguments and stresses of life will fall away. The only thing that remains is love. Even if someone chooses to hate me, I can still choose to love them. Their hate doesn't define me. I have control over how I respond. Instead of seeing life as a burden, I can choose to see the beauty and responsibility that comes with it. Carrying the weight of past experiences only makes life harder. I must let go of the unnecessary baggage that I've accumulated over time and start living more consciously in the present. Life itself is an ongoing process, and the idea of I is not as real as I may think. As long as I hold on to the false notion that I am a separate individual entity, I will continue to suffer. The truth is that there is no separate I. Everything is interconnected. If I grasp this, I will experience a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. There is no need for elaborate spiritual practices or mantras to reach this understanding. It's not about following a prescribed method. Instead, it's about realizing that I am not separate from the world around me. If I see myself in the mirror and understand that the reflection is not something separate from me, I stop fighting against life. Many people live their lives thinking they are distinct from everything else, but this is the root of suffering. I need to understand that I am life itself, connected to everything and everyone. Only then will I find true happiness.